You're listening to a bonus episode of the On Being Human podcast. I'm your host, Brandi Fleck. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this special bonus episode. Today, I'm going to be flying solo to talk to you about the 6 helpful habits to finding your purpose. This is a lesson in using introspection to nurture a relationship with yourself through 6 habits that are tools which will help you reconnect with your true core self and values. Once you reconnect in that way, finding your purpose in life becomes much easier, leading to more positive experiences and fulfillment in many areas of your life. Before we dive in, if you're not familiar with the normal format of the show, know that we are currently in the off season. When we're in season, this is an interview show of soul-exposing explorations of what it means to be human. So people just like you and me tell life stories and experiences of adversity, joy, healing, and more, their choices, experiences, artistic outlets, all of those things. We explore these real stories to help us uncover our own humanity bit by recognizing it in others. Every episode, we ask the question, what does being human mean to you? I've found that this answer changes from person to person and even evolves for one person over time, even though there are certain overlapping themes in all the answers that we've gathered so far. But anyways, to get a better feel of what the show offers when it's actively in season, browse the catalog at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes. To get a better idea of who I am as your host, go ahead and listen to episodes 1 and 19. If you're familiar with the show, you know that I'm not a therapist or life coach. Who I am is an INFJ artist, writer, avid student of human nature, and woman on a spiritual journey who wants to talk to you deeply, like we're friends on our Spencer's Gifts landline phones in 1996, okay? I started wondering what my purpose in life was from an early age. So I've been seeking and finding answers to that question from early childhood until now, and I want to run my answers by you so you can try them too. So go ahead and for this episode, grab a pen and paper to take notes. We're going to be covering a lot of ground in a short amount of time. If you can't take notes right this second, no worries. Check the show notes at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes/057. I'll drop a link in those show notes to an article that this bonus episode is adapted from. This episode is adapted from Article 2 of 8 in the Finding Your Purpose series, running on Thursdays from July until September 2020 at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/blog. You can find more articles there and as they come out weekly through September on the topic of finding your purpose. And then after September, we'll probably change up the topic a bit. We are actively expanding self-help resources available to you on the blog and website so you can do some soul searching, just like the guests who come on the On Being Human podcast. If you like what you hear today, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're now also available on Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and most other podcast platforms. So go ahead, follow us, subscribe, and please, for the love of all that is holy, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. These are so helpful and important to the success of our show. So when we fire season 3 up, we'll be giving shout outs to listeners who review the show. So that's awesome. Okay, guys, are you ready to dive in and absorb a lot of information? Here's what we'll go over in this episode. Number 1, why you're not as connected to yourself as you could be. Number 2, making the shift from external to internal. Number 3, incremental progress is the answer to changing your life. Number 4, we'll actually go over the 6 helpful habits, and we'll break them down with definitions. And in articles 3 through 8 of the Finding Your Purpose series, we'll be focusing on 1 habit per week. So you'll want to come and read those because we'll dive even deeper into these 6 habits, but we'll go over them all today. Number 5, believing the future is bright. And number 6, taking action. And you'll actually get a tiny homework assignment, which is perfect since school is starting. It 'tis the season. Here we go. All right, so why aren't you as connected to yourself as you could be? My opinion, based on my observation in my own life and what people have told me over the last 2 years of doing the On Being Human podcast, is that you're in a busy phase of life, like me too. And as humans, we're involved in the societal trappings of human life that makes us feel like we don't have enough time for the people and experiences we care about, on top of not having enough time for the hobbies or habits that fulfill our own souls and true selves. And perhaps your life has slowed down a bit since the pandemic started and you're still struggling with existing during this transitional phase in our human history. That struggle and fog and disorientation can also lead to disconnection. So just keep that in mind. We're a little disconnected. A lot of people are a little disconnected from their real values. Also, if you've been through trauma, you can forget who you are because you spend so much time trying to survive and cope and get through it. You don't have time to focus on that other stuff. So if you're just coming out of trauma, here we are with some tools to reconnect. Short and sweet. Moving on to making the shift from external to internal. I get it. We have these systems that keep us churning in the cogs so that everything runs for the collective. But does it really run for the collective? Are you happy with what you're doing? We need money, right? We need all the things that will help us look young, right? We need all the things that will make us look cool. We need all the things that will keep us healthy without trying too hard, right? Remember when this was called Keeping Up with the Joneses rather than the Kardashians? That's where I'm at. The Joneses can have it. That's where I'm at. They can have it because those materialistic things are what external forces are telling us will make us happy. But it isn't necessarily true. We've made it true in some circumstances, but it doesn't have to be either. So at the end of the day, I want to be at peace with and happy with the actions I've taken in this life, in my life, and I want to act according to my inner conscience, following what's right over what's easy. And I imagine you want to do the same. I want to act in alignment with what feels right on the inside, regardless of external pressures or rules or judgments or advice, or the list goes on of these external pressures that we subject ourselves to. But it's time to reevaluate if these external pressures are really necessary, because I guarantee if you stop to think about it, some of them aren't. When the machine is so gigantic that we can't even begin to see how we'd change one little practice in our own life, let alone how we'd change the machine of our world and society, we have to start small, right? You eat the elephant one bite at a time. So it can be overwhelming. So to start seeing how we can progress, we need to break down our wants, desires, and goals into small, achievable steps, which leads us into that incremental progress is the answer. It's the answer to start making that shift from the external to the internal, where you'll reconnect with yourself and then be able to make changes so that you have a more fulfilling life, so that you're living your purpose. Now, this might be obvious, but incremental progress starts with starting. With that in mind, let's talk about starting habits. Let's talk about replacing habits that you don't care about or don't need anymore or that serve you no longer. And as your friend and fellow human, I really think that you should replace some of these old habits that you've had in your life for a while. So stop for a second to think about what are some of these habits that are no longer serving you. And by no longer serving you, I mean, are you doing them just because you've always done them? What value are they bringing? Is it just draining your time and energy even though it didn't used to? Is it no longer making you happy? If truly you're not just tired and need a break, but if these things are truly draining you to the point where they are no longer serving you with joy and fulfillment, it's okay to let go. Okay, so the first step is starting, but let's talk about what incremental progress is. So the incremental progress part comes in because these habits that we'll talk about start to work over time after you've consistently used them to be introspective, observe patterns, determine if those patterns are helpful or hurtful, and then decide to make change. So finding your purpose is a commitment, but you don't have to do it all at once. Remember, start small and build over time. So that could look like doing one particular practice per month and adding a new one in once you've made the first one a real habit at whatever pace works for you. It could look like doing 2 at once. It could look like even longer. I mean, really, this is up to you. This is your progress. This is your life. I will say, if you want to go faster than these self-help habits allow, go ahead and consider working with a life coach. I've done it. I love life coaches. I'm about to work with a business coach, so you'll actually start seeing some changes in the website over time as we're making the brand and the offerings more valuable to you. So life coaches have really helped change my life and speed up the changes that I wanted to make, and they still are helping with that. So that's a good starting point if you want to go fast. If you don't want to go fast, that's okay too. But I whipped up a little directory with my top 3 recommendations of life coaches. If you go to the show notes, there will be a button there that says download the life coach directory. It's free. You will love these life coaches. Just pick the one whose style resonates with you. There's a little blurb in there about their styles and their personalities. You'll get to see a picture and you'll get to see the different offerings they have and who they serve. So hopefully one resonates with you. If they do, great, let me know. But anyways, we're going to move on as if you're not calling a life coach right now. So these habits that we're going to talk about, when they're absent from my life, they're noticeably missing because I can look back over the patterns that occurred and see the shift toward the negative rather than the progress toward the positive. These habits are ways to be intentional about finding your purpose and living your purpose. So they help you set your intentions to make change. And the descriptions of each that I'm going to give you are based on my own personal experience with each. I've used each and every one of these habits in the past and presently, and flow in and out of these practices as life requires. So I haven't always used them consistently, but like I said, when I haven't, I've noticed a difference. The point being, I wouldn't tell you to use them if I hadn't tested them and approved of them over time. So let's jump into the 6 helpful habits. I'm going to tell you what they are, and then we'll go over them one by one. This is where you might want to take notes. The first habit is journaling. The second habit is prayer. The third habit is meditation. The fourth habit is positive thinking. The fifth habit is acceptance. And the sixth habit is hope. Starting from the top, let's talk about journaling for a second. This is a free-form communication that is very powerful. It can be writing, it can be sketching, verbal, visual, whatever language best helps you to process your emotions, recognize where you're directing your energy, and showing you your regular thought patterns. And journaling acts as a primary source for what it means to be human to you, because you can look back at it and know how you felt at a particular point in time, during a particular situation. Journaling takes us on a journey of self-discovery, regardless of what you choose to write or sketch about. And the power of telling your story, even if it's just to yourself, is very healing. There's a healing power to it, but that's the high-level importance of journaling. The second practice that I want you to consider forming into a habit is prayer. Now, I pray every day, multiple times a day. I pray with my kids, even though I don't necessarily, I'm not super religious, but prayer is a powerful method of talking to God or the universe, whatever you prefer to call your higher power. And it's a spoken form of your thoughts, fears, desires, hopes, wishes, and so much more. It's basically your side of your relationship with God, the angels, your spirit guides, and even your deceased loved ones. And when you pray in groups of people, it has tangible power, okay? The third practice that you eventually want to become a habit is meditation. And it's a powerful method of God, the universe, your angels, or your spirit guides talking to you. So, opposite of prayer, this is you receiving guidance as opposed to doing the communicating. It's a way to open up your consciousness to receive the messages that are meant for you, even from your own higher self. So a lot of life coaches have told me that the truth exists within all of us, but sometimes it's hard to access, isn't it? Because if you don't know how you feel, or if you don't know what you think about a certain thing, how can you pinpoint what the truth is, right? So you have to be still and give yourself time to figure it out sometimes, and meditation is the way to do that. It helps you relax and let go of the tension and external pressures of human life through breathing, visualization, and clearing your mind. Now, mastering meditation definitely takes practice, but it's worth it, and you don't have to spend a ton of time every day doing it for it to be useful, okay? The fourth habit or practice that I want you to form into a habit is positive thinking. Now, positive thinking is intentionally tailoring your thoughts to focus on the positive rather than the negative. Focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Focus on the good rather than the bad. This doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge the bad things that happen, the pain that you go through, or whatever else it is that's negative. But to the contrary, you actually must acknowledge these negative things and feel the very real and big emotions to be healthy and release them. But the point of positive thinking is to find the lesson in a circumstance, find the good in it, find that silver lining, and then let go of all of the rest that doesn't serve you. Because suppressing the negative causes harmful mental and physical ailments, okay? Positive thinking helps you harness the lessons from hard experiences so you can progress in a productive and loving way. And progressing in a productive and loving way is where we want to go after trauma, after adversity, or even just in everyday life, right? Like we get bogged down by the grind, like we were talking about earlier, with those external pressures that we perceive as necessary, but it doesn't have to be that way. So positive thinking also helps you love yourself and others more, and it helps you attract more love into your life, which is really the foundation of everything that we should be as humans. Now, the fifth one is acceptance. And y'all, I'm going to be real. Acceptance is the hardest one on the list for me. It's the one I have to work at the most because sometimes I want circumstances, relationships, and the course of life to go a certain way, and it hurts when it doesn't. But the highest good for all happens in due time, and I know that everything happens for a reason. So remembering those gems of truth that my granny gave me of, everything happens in due time and everything happens for a reason really helps me keep trying at acceptance. Acceptance is suspending judgment of your current circumstance, station in life, dealt hand, feeling, being, doing, treatment from another person, a loved one's true character, or any other area in life that you might judge, but that you cannot control, okay? Acceptance means acknowledging the truth and being in it without hating it, without beating yourself up about it, and without trying to control it into being something it's not. Now, acceptance doesn't mean letting someone walk all over you or treat you poorly. It just means recognize when someone is so you can set boundaries and then go about your life no longer being hurt. Okay? There are things within our control and outside of our control. To accept doesn't mean you can't change a circumstance, but change does come with intention, time, and will, okay? Acceptance comes before changes because it sets you up in a place where you're able to focus on what you want rather than what sucks so bad. And if something is out of your control, acceptance is also the first step in healing. Sometimes, if you look back at the other 4 habits that came before acceptance in this list, journaling, prayer, meditation, and positive thinking, those things combined can help you recognize what is out of your control and what you may need to practice acceptance with, okay? So they all work together. And then last but not least, hope is so important. And a lot of times we think of hope as something that people just have or don't have, but it's possible to work at it because hope is a form of faith, isn't it? So to quote the Littlest Engine, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Hope drives motivation. Motivation drives change. And then for those circumstances you can't change, hope, also coupled with acceptance, allows you to move on, live in the present, but also look forward to the future with joy. If we believe the future is bright, it is. This statement is true because if you put your energy toward a certain thought, you live your life in a way that will see it to fruition. Just think about it. Think about a time in your life where you have just dwelled on something or ruminated about it so long that eventually you did something to make that thought stop. Whatever it was, something happened and a decision was made and something manifested in your life. So you see, dwelling in the negative because you avoid acceptance of life circumstances makes the negative come to fruition. Whereas when you dwell on the good and the positive, you also end up setting your intention and taking action toward positive life circumstances. And guess what? I truly believe this. Our future actually is bright because we are creatures who can embrace healing, love, joy, and creation. All God-given gifts. I believe it and I've done it. And I've talked to over 50 people on the On Being Human podcast over the last 2 years who've bravely told their life stories with similar messages. So again, go check out some of those messages at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes if you want more proof, and it's all there. Everything that I'm saying here is based on a combination of my life experience and the experiences of the others I've talked to as we're on this quest of soul searching and finding out what it means to be human. So what is the importance of being intentional through journaling, prayer, meditation, positive thinking, acceptance, and hope? Let's go over this again. These habits, when rooted in pure love, help you start finding your purpose. They help you start recognizing it and start taking action toward it. And starting is so important. So real quick, let's talk about taking action. I told you at the beginning you'd have a tiny little homework assignment. So I want you to pick one practice from the list and do it every day for the next week, even if it's only for a couple of minutes. Whichever one you pick, I guarantee that you're going to start paying more attention to your inner self because you're actually going to have to think about what you're feeling in the present moment. And maybe what you're feeling in the present moment is impacted by the past. Maybe it's impacted by anxiety about the future. But either way, you're going to start recognizing it. You're going to start tuning in to those things that are true inside yourself. So after about a week of doing these practices, I want you to come and tell me about it, okay? I want you to send me an email. You can email me at Brandi Fleck at onbeinghumanpodcast.com. You can leave a comment on this episode, which is at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes/057. You can call the show's voicemail and leave a message and let me know what's happened after you've done this for a week. And let's see where it goes from here. And it takes a long time to start forming habits. So you have to do these things over and over and over, but eventually they'll take hold. And if you want to make change and you make the time to do these things, they'll work. Also, maybe you're already doing some of these things. If you are, I want to know. Leave a comment about how they've already been helpful in your life to help other people who are tuning in and just starting. And I said that acceptance poses the biggest challenge for me. It's the one I have to work at the most, but let me know which one poses the biggest challenge for you and why. And let's get a discussion going so that we can help each other in our quest to find our true purpose. Thanks for listening to this little bonus episode. I know it's not like the format of our in-season show, but I really hope it was helpful for you. If it was, I'd love to know, and I would love to connect with you on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter, the website onbeinghumanpodcast.com, and of course, again, follow the On Being Human podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review. I love you so much. Talk to you next time there's a bonus.